Hey there, friends. So this is Dr. Bill here, the reading and writing doctor, and I've been out for a while because of an accident where I totaled my vehicle. Just in a nutshell, at first didn't have any problems whatsoever that day, and then the next day the pain started, and it just proceeded to get worse and worse over the next 4 months. November, December, January, February, and just now I'm starting to feel good again. So we got about 2 months left before the testing window for reading and writing. So I wanted to make sure I kind of gave some insight every single day from here on out for all of you, uh, whether you're in my writing reading group or not, whether you've joined part one and or part two of the extended constructed response and short constructed response recorded trainings. I want to make sure I'm able to help you. And a debate came up today about whether or not the student gets a zero in a short constructed response if there's no evidence. Okay. Now, before I show you the TEA document, I want to make sure I show it to you visually and kinesthetically. All right, I want my two hands here to represent the ER, the emergency room for evidence and response. According to the Texas Education Agency rubric, in all grade levels, for short constructed responses, it says this, that the evidence present related to the question and the response, the answer to the question, is going to equal a 2 in hopefully what resembles a complete thought. The evidence present or the response, the answer to the question, it says partial response. That would get a 1. So that means the evidence could be there, response is missing. Response could be there, evidence is missing. Either way, the rubric states your students will get a 1. And this isn't for just humans grading. This is the automated scoring engines that all this information is inputted into whatever system they use to score. Well, the last one, evidence nor response. They ask a question, but there's no evidence that actually relates to the question, nor is there an attempted response to the actual question being asked. That would get a 0. Okay. So before I show you my advanced folder that has that, I made a new one for the 2025 year because of all of the issues that we've been having. So this is just happens to be the one for 5th grade. And it says constructed response scoring guide. So it's the short constructed response because it says reading. If it had the word writing there, then it would be a 5-point scale. But the reading is only based on organization, but not developed or conventions. You just have to have two things. For a 2, and in all cases, I want the evidence to represent the color yellow and the response represent the color red. And the cool thing about these monkeys, they look like the letter S for a sentence. Okay. So if the automated scoring engine sees that there is a response that has at least one piece of supporting evidence, one piece, in other words, not even a complete thought has to be there of evidence, but they just have to turn that piece of evidence into a complete thought in what resembles a somewhat complete sentence. Okay. So you can see here for the two, the response red and the evidence to support it based on text, yellow, are both there. So the student gets a 2. Here's the debate that we're having in my reading and writing group today. Evidence, response. Okay. Score of 1, partial credit. Keep in mind, partial credit. The evidence, as I said here, evidence or the response is there. And so what I've done here, I have the ER evidence response. I crossed off evidence because it says a partial response may include one of the answers expected in the complete response up there, but one of those. However, the evidence included does not support the answer stated or no evidence is provided. So the response is there, but no evidence. It says you can get a 1. Opposite. The evidence is there, but the response is not. A partial response may cite or paraphrase relevant text evidence. Okay, important. It can be quoted, the location, quotations, or it can be paraphrased, relevant related text evidence, but the student does not include an accurate answer. So this is what I was trying to explain to everybody, which came from TEA. So in this case, if, again, this monkey is the evidence, this monkey is the response. This first one is saying there's not evidence or correct evidence, but there is a response. The second one saying there is correct evidence, but there is not a correct response. Finally, the last one, there is not an evidence present or a response. They're either incorrect or not present. And I just put this, this is the source, the Texas Education Agency Student Assessment Division from this past year's rubrics and scoring guides. My little note is that TEA must be your primary source for information, not a regional service center, consultant, program, curriculum, district, campus testing coordinator, or a teacher group. If the scoring criteria changes for some reason, the scoring rubrics would have to change as well. And when you go look at all your short constructed rubrics in your grade level, because this is only for 5th grade, you're going to see the exact same thing, just with different examples of responses. Okay, so this is how I redid my 2025 short constructed response guides in my English language arts reading and writing folders. You get a class set of these, my graphic organizer class set of 25, and even my dual language primary folders. All that comes for 25 bucks, including shipping, folks. So it's a great deal that I'll keep for the last 2 months. Just let me know in Messenger or in the comment section if you would like a link to these folders. Anybody who purchases the folders, organizers, primary folders for that $25, I'll give you either part A of the recorded training of SCR, which is on how to go from a 0 on ECR to a 1 or a 2. And part 2 is how to go from a 2 to a 3, 4, or 5. Okay. And I'll talk about the essay in another video. Here's basically the guidelines. All right. Again, we have yellow and red. So short constructed response, total of 2 points, and it's a reading question. So they won't be testing grammar. What is the question? What is the prompt? The topic. Which W is being asked? They'll usually ask a who, what, when, where, why, which, or how statement as part of the question. Normally, the word prompt is going to be there, so your kids will know. And then what after it asks the question, the second sentence is always going to be sure to support your answer with evidence from the selection. So, how to get a 1? What is the evidence or the answer response? So that's basically in a nutshell that whole page just in this little part of my folder here. Okay, so it's either the evidence or it's the response, one or the other. How to get a 2? What is the evidence and the answer or the response? They both have to be there in what resembles a complete thought in response to the topic. Okay. Now, here are some problems that we've been having that I felt like I needed to add just as reminders so that you can go over these the next couple of months with your students. Restating the question is not the same as responding to it. So anybody can restate all of the words from the question, but if you don't actually answer the W that's being asked, you're not answering the question. Number 2, only one piece of evidence or more is required in a 2-point short constructed response. You saw that, I underlined that, and that's right there. At least one piece of supporting evidence. You don't need 2, 3, 4 pieces in a short. So they call it a short constructed response. Another thing, number 3, the location and or quotations for the evidence are optional, but not required. In other words, your students can do it. Your students can give the location of the evidence and they can place it in quotations, also known as citing the evidence, but they don't have to in order to get the points. And finally, I think finally we're getting this point cleared up. At the beginning, a lot of you were being told that you had to explain short constructed responses, okay? Because it doesn't say to develop your ideas in detail. All it has is 2 sentences to do 2 things, give the evidence and give the answer. Explaining is not required for a 2 in reading SCR questions. So I'm hoping for any of you that have joined part 1 and or part 2 of the recorded sessions that I have for this year, you got a digital copy of this. A lot of you are asking me for hard copies, and so they come in class sets. Like I said, you'll get 25 of these, basically the short constructed, all of the non-multiple choice questions, the constructed type responses of different types, an outline for the essay up for all grade levels, the editing and light and revising keyword strands, and then to kind of help if you're still going to be teaching students in print, there's a cool alphabet in upper and lower case. Remind your students that whenever they are having to capitalize in their typing, they must push the shift button, not shift hold, but just shift and for any capital letters. So I used to say capital because when you put a cap on, you look taller than you really are. But you can also say shift, Bill, shift, Mac, shift, Donald. I'm actually saying what I'm going to do to make sure that I have capitalization. Your kids can use effective figurative language, contrary to popular belief. You can use whatever you want as long as your answer on an essay and the way you explain it ties to what's actually being asked. And on the inside, it's just a little mini thesaurus with lots of great synonyms that your kids can use when they're typing. And of course, you can't use this on the test, but this guide is going to be great to have for the next couple of months. So I'm going to let you zoom in there and take a close look at that for this writing folder part one. Make sure that you're scoring accurately based on all of this information right here in the upper left-hand corner for short constructed responses using the Texas Education Agency Student Assessment Division short constructed response scoring guide, scoring rubric as its uh, primary source, primary guide. So hopefully that cleared up some confusion for many of you. Be sure to message me if you have a question that you don't really feel comfortable asking in front of the entire world. Um, put something in the comment section. If you want some clarity, email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com. If you would like a link either through the email or um, through Messenger, I can send you a link to part one, part two, or the hard copies of the folders, graphic organizers, and the primary version of the folders, which they're kind of in a dual language setup. I'll show those in another video. When you purchase those for $25, including shipping, you get those 75 11 by 17 sheets. And you will just let me know by email if you want part two ECR part two or ECR SCR part one, depending on where your students are at and what scores that you're trying for at this point in the year. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching, and please share our tag uh, uh, so that other people can get some accurate information.